Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I am once again joined not by my human counterpart, but by my other counterpart, the ever popular, ever famous, Unlimited Popcorn Bucket. Say hi, Popcorn Bucket. Alright, awesome. So, I decided to just hit another film this week, just change things up a little bit, go and see a late showing of last week's box office winner, the third installment in the Equalizer series, Equalizer 3. Overall, I've heard really good things about it, and so I was just curious about it. So, how does it hold up in my opinion? I'd probably give it about a 7. 7 is usually like just a very enjoyable film. It's not like mind-blowingly great, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Most of the issues that I have with this film isn't having to do with a lot of the story elements or the fact that it's, the third part in a series. Actually, this week, the last couple of days, I've gone through and I've watched the first two parts in the trilogy. I don't know what it was. This film just kind of slipped through the cracks for me. I am a fan of Denzel Washington, and I like these kind of action films, so I'm surprised that I didn't see it when they came out in theaters. But like I said, I think that it probably just slipped through because it came out 2014, and I had stuff going on in 2014, and then 2018 the second one came out. And usually when it comes to sequels, I like seeing them beforehand just because I like having the entire experience. So it probably just, again, slipped through the cracks. So when this one came out, I was interested in it, but I wasn't necessarily interested in seeing the first two in the day before we went to the movie theater. So usually, I don't have to explain all this to you guys, but I'm happy I went and saw this film. Like I said, it's a 7 out of 10. It's a very enjoyable film. It has a lot of really good parts to it. Some of the parts that I didn't like about it aren't even necessarily spoilers. The film is shot really well. The direction is really good. The camera direction is really good, except when it's not. There's a lot of these overarching shots, and I don't know if it's just because it was on the big screen or what the deal was, but a lot of the times when they did sweeping shots, they were actually really, really disorienting. They were kind of hard to look at. It got really blurry, and it wasn't just like a little bit of motion blur. It was 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds of blur and not really anything in focus. So you're trying to catch things in the scenery, but the entire scenery is extremely blurry, so it's really hard to kind of pick and choose where to look. And so those are kind of disorienting shots. Otherwise, the film overall is really, really fun. It's really, really enjoyable. So if you guys are going to go and see it, I recommend it. Otherwise, this is definitely a film that you can rent when it comes out. I hope that the film is successful financially, though, because it is a very good addition to a really good series. Is it the best of the trilogy? In my opinion, no. I think each one of the films has a part of it that I really, really love and really, really enjoy. It is kind of hard to pick a favorite one, but I wouldn't say this is my favorite one of the trilogy. The first one, I really like the environment that he's in and the way that the story comes about. The second one, I really enjoyed a lot of the side characters and all of the tension that had to do with that, and the fact that it was so much different than the first one, but a similar vein. And then this one is entirely set in Sicily and Italy, so it's like a different venue, but he's facing like a specific organization. In my opinion, though, this one gets a little bit clunky at times, and sometimes it gets a little lost in what you're going to what your point of scenes and stuff and like stuff like that is. So I'll just keep rolling. Spoilers. Overall, I think the only part of this film that I didn't really care for was Dakota Fanning. She has parts in it that are really, really good, and I actually found her character very interesting. I liked the ending and, you know, showing the fact that she's kind of like a legacy character that just hasn't been there, because she's related to our main character's friend that was in the first two films and tragically was murdered in the second one. I really enjoyed that. I really like that. It kind of gives it opportunity to continue on in a way, but the other thing that I like about the Equalizer trilogy is that every ending can be a very, very solid and satisfying ending. The first one, it feels like it could continue on, but if it just stays at the status quo where he's at, it's a perfectly fine ending for him. The second one, in my opinion, had a perfect ending for a series. Having him back in his home where he lost his wife and the town that they both were living in when he retired the first time. That was a very satisfying ending and a really clean ending shot. This one has a bit of a satisfying ending, but it gets a little bit cheesy in my opinion, where it goes a little too hard with the cheery ending. Otherwise, Dakota Fanning, I don't know what it is. It may be the character, it might be the writing, but she felt really stiff in this one. I haven't seen a lot of films with Dakota Fanning in it since really like when she was a kid actor, and she was a talented kid actor, but kid actors don't always translate to good adult actors, and maybe that's the case with Dakota Fanning. I haven't seen her in a lot of films, like I said, so in this one though, she came off pretty stiff, and not like she has like a, you know, like she's the straight character who's, you know, like all about, you know, doing the right thing and blah, blah, blah. No, she just, it felt very wooden. Her acting just felt a little wooden. Denzel Washington knocks it out of the park, like he always does. A lot of the other side characters are really, really good as well. Although, I have to say, I don't know, halfway through the film, I felt really bad for the Marshall character. The police officer who's in charge of the police in the small town that or the Equalizer has found himself in. That poor dude. He finds a guy stranded on the side of the road and is told by the doctor, like, no, he fell. Don't ask questions. We don't want to ask questions because the bad man might come because if we report the fact that this man did not fall and he was actually shot, you can't do that. So he gets told this really weird thing from this, like, really trusted older doctor, you know, guy. But then, poor dude, just minding his own business and doing his job, does his job, and it gets heard by the wrong person, and his daughter gets, like, semi-kidnapped. His family is held hostage, and he is beaten up bad, really bad, and that like spawned some things. But then I felt really bad because the brother of the guy who beat up the police officer and then went out of his way to go to a dinner that he was having with his family to intimidate this terrified police officer further, which caused the Equalizer to kill the brother who was intimidating the police officer after he already had beat him up and semi-kidnapped his daughter. The brother, like the main antagonist, Vincent, comes, and who does he grab in order to show to the town that he means business and they need to turn over the man who murdered his brother? None other than the marshal, the police officer. They grab him, drag him into the streets after also taking his wife and daughter again, putting them in danger. And then on top of that, when nobody gives him up, in front of the entire town, they shoot his ear off. This guy is having the worst week. This is, like, I felt really bad for him. Like, they couldn't have intimidated somebody else. You know, whatever. The story overall is pretty good. It has a lot of really interesting tidbits and stuff like that, but there comes a couple of times when the focus of the film seems a little wishy-washy, and as it comes to its conclusion, it doesn't necessarily feel as satisfying of a conclusion, because not only do we already know who the main bad guy is, we know where he is at, and he's also already been filmed, and he's very well known to be the bad guy, and he's on film threatening the police chief of the small town, but he continues to try to intimidate the town into making a resort. So, you know, there's also not a really satisfying final confrontation. There's not a lot of risk. Denzel Washington's character doesn't seem at risk. He doesn't have a final confrontation with a skilled enemy. You know, in the first one, he had the Spetsnaz enforcer guy. So there's a little bit of risk involved, you know, and he's kind of thrown off guard by where everything is happening in that. In the second one, he's fighting his partner, so somebody who has a similar skill set but has also been active and doing it in the private sector for a long time and is in charge of this whole murderous cover-up. In this one, it's the head of the Italian mafia who has a bunch of enforcers that the Equalizer beats up multiple times and then kills. He doesn't seem to be a threat. He doesn't feel like a threat, so the ending doesn't feel as satisfying as there isn't like a final confrontation. They don't play into the fact also that the beginning of the film, the Equalizer is hurt. Like, he's shot in the back by a kid. Of all the people, he gets shot in the back by a kid. And, you know, you would think that there's like some risk involved in that where, you know, he might be a little bit off. He's injured, and it's not like a little injury. He's like, his whole thing could be really off, but they don't go into that danger component. Some things aren't really explained very well. They throw in like Syrian drugs and terrorists and things like that, but then it is also the mafia, and his whole evil plan is to get this small town in Sicily to be a resort town with hotels and casinos, and his whole thing is he's intimidating people. So that's part of the film that really just doesn't work for me. There are some really great visuals. The action is really good. There's a lot of like surprise killing, and not only that, some of the graphics and stuff like that for some of these spontaneous killings is very creative and very shocking, which keeps you on the edge of your seat because you don't really know what's going to happen. Like, literally, they have a scene where it's a really cool shot, actually, where Vincent is trying to intimidate a town into, like, a building in a town into selling off their rights as apartments so that he could turn it into a hotel because he likes the location where the building's at. And part of the way to intimidate people is he takes this older grandfather figure who's on oxygen and just wants to stay and die in his home. He takes him and he has him pushed through a glass door in the wheelchair, but like hanging on, like having him hung by like a wire. So the shot is like he bursts through the window. It's like kind of slow motion where he bursts through the window and you see him kind of fall, and the whole thing happens, and then he's like, it's just this old man now who's just hanging dead in a window, and he goes, leave him there, we want to send a message, so just leave him there. And then he leaves. Like I said, some of the shots in this film are really, really good. Just some of these tracking shots, they've got to either slow down the window of time, like they've got to slow down how quickly the camera is pulling, or they need to have shorter tracking shots. They need to figure something out with that, because it was disorienting, it was weird, it pulled me out of the film. I didn't care for it, and it's just so odd because, like I said, most of this film is just beautifully shot. You have these great, like, artistic shots, these amazing angles, and the scenery of the town that they're in is just gorgeous. But then it has these tracking shots that are showing like this gorgeous landscape, but it is moving at such a pace and over such a long period of distance that it is blurred and just disorienting, and it's hard to look at sometimes. So overall, that's kind of my issues with the film. The story is kind of weak. The cinematography is a wonderful experience except when it isn't. And the acting is really good, except Dakota Fanning comes off a little wooden. So I think that's really all I can say about the film. Yeah, it's a fun film. If you guys like the Equalizer series, you will really like this one. It's satisfying. It has a lot of really good parts to it, but I don't think it's the best one of the series, the trilogy. At this point, it's a trilogy. It's not the best one in the trilogy, but it's still a fun movie, and it's very creative, and if they made another one, I'd probably go see it. So yeah, thanks guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let us know in the comments what you think of the Equalizer as a series, or even just give us feedback on our reviews, if you like them, if you don't like them, what we can do better, what we are doing well. Otherwise, if you haven't already, please subscribe and share us with your friends and family. We appreciate you guys interacting with the channel, and we hope that you're enjoying it as much as we are. So with that, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.